Decline, the love of my life. Laughter. 2 seconds of confused silence. Clinking glasses. Someone whistled. And then the sound I still can't unhear. Her laugh, shrill, triumphant, proud of the scene she had just orchestrated. I didn't even look up. Not at her. Not at the guy she toasted. Not at the audience she seemed to think she was performing for. My hands were locked around a sweating glass of ginger ale. My palms were clammy. My chest felt hollow. And my entire face numb. That was the moment I realized my wedding was already over. We weren't even married yet. I had just watched my fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry in less than 48 hours, raise a glass to her ex-boyfriend, declare him the love of her life, and then slap a lazy, just kidding on the end like it erased the sting. She said it was a prank. She said, lighten up, Colby, it was a joke. She said, God, don't be dramatic. Everyone laughed. But what I saw wasn't laughter. It was tension, awkward shifting. Her maid of honor pressing her lips together. My cousin muttering, was that real? My dad, who never gets emotional, blinking way too much and reaching for his coat. I excused myself from the room and went straight to the staff bathroom. Locked the door. Stared at myself in the mirror until my vision blurred. And I swear to you, I didn't even cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, sweating in my shirt, blinking like a broken toy. You spend your whole life trying to become someone stable, someone dependable, someone marriage material. And in one 10-second performance, she turned me into a joke. I texted her that night, told her I needed space. She replied with a voice note of her giggling, saying, "You're gonna ghost me before our wedding over a bit?" Seriously. I didn't answer. I packed my things, called the venue, canceled the catering, took a massive financial hit, left her dress hanging untouched in the closet. I didn't ask for anything back. No confrontation, no screaming match. Just silence. It was the loudest statement I've ever made in my life. She only realized it was real the morning of the wedding, when the florist called her instead of me. That's when the messages started. And the tears. And the apologies. And the please talk to me texts. And the photos of her mascara-stained face with captions like, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. But the thing is, she was right. It wasn't how it was supposed to go. And that's exactly why I walked away. I didn't answer any of her calls that morning. My phone had been on silent since 3:17 a.m. after I sent a single message to the venue manager. Cancel. Groom won't be showing up. I also sent a tip to the hotel concierge, asking them to ensure the bridal suite stayed untouched, but left one small envelope on the desk inside. My final word. While she was upstairs getting her hair done, laughing with her bridesmaids, sipping champagne, she still thought I was in another room, just cooling off. That was her excuse to everyone, that I was being emotional again. That I'd come around once the vows started. That I was probably writing something dramatic in my journal, her exact words, sent in a voice note I never played all the way through. But reality started unraveling fast. The photographer showed up and asked for the groom's wardrobe. There wasn't one. The groomsman stood awkwardly in a hallway with no idea where I was. The officiant called my number and heard, "This number is temporarily unavailable." And still, she thought I was bluffing. I imagine her brushing off every red flag with that same dismissive tone she always used when I tried to tell her how I really felt. Don't spiral, you're overthinking again, can we not ruin the mood? What she didn't realize was that this wasn't a spiral. This was a straight line. One final decision. By the time she entered the bridal suite, in full makeup, veil perched, ready for her first look photos, I was already a state away. I had taken the first train at sunrise, sitting beside a man eating pistachios in complete silence while the life I had spent 3 years building quietly collapsed behind me. I turned off my phone completely at 9:42 a.m. But later, I heard what happened when she opened the envelope. Inside was a printed photo, one taken by a guest the night of the rehearsal dinner. It captured the exact moment she raised her glass to toast her ex. Jason was mid-smirk. She was laughing with her head thrown back. I was in the background, blurry, looking down at my plate. On the back of the photo, I wrote 7 words. You turned me into a ghost early. That was it. No dramatic paragraph. No rant. No explanation. Just the truth. Her friend Cammie, the only one from her circle who ever treated me like more than a placeholder, messaged me on Facebook the next day. She said Laureen collapsed on the floor after reading it. That she kept whispering, "What have I done?" over and over again. That she tried calling my mother, who gave her nothing but silence in return. I never asked for that reaction. I didn't need her to fall apart. I just wanted her to finally feel something other than superiority. And I think she did. But only once I was gone. She'd spent years telling me I needed to toughen up, stop being so soft, be a man. But the only time I ever truly felt strong was when I chose silence over begging. Walking away didn't make me feel victorious. It made me feel empty, but honest. Because what's the point of staying in something that's designed to break you? She made her joke. And now, the punchline is silence. It took 3 full days before I turned my phone back on. 3 days of disappearing into bus stations and hotel lobbies, leaving no digital footprint, not even checking my emails. I didn't want to see the fallout. I wasn't ready for the explosion I knew would follow. But curiosity isn't a quiet thing. It doesn't politely wait its turn, it claws. And by the 3rd morning, I couldn't stop wondering just how far everything had unraveled since I left. The moment I powered it on, the screen lit up like it had been waiting to scream. 91 missed calls, 32 voicemails, 117 unread texts, 12 different senders. One name repeated over and over, Lorene. Some of the messages were exactly what I expected, variations of "please call me. We need to talk. This can't be happening." But others, they were something else. Harsher. More raw. Some were pure panic, some were blame, and at least 3 accused me of humiliating her. As if I had ambushed her wedding. As if I had made her the punchline. But in the middle of all the static, one message stood out. It was from her brother, Nolan, someone I barely knew, who had always seemed distant, uninterested in small talk. His message was simple. "For what it's worth, man. I saw your face that night. And I don't blame you. She went too far. We all saw it." That one stuck with me. Because for the first time, someone acknowledged that it wasn't just me being sensitive. That what she did wasn't a silly prank or a personality quirk. It was cruelty dressed up in a party dress. And it wasn't the first time. You see, people like Lorene don't wound with knives. They use words, grins, sideways glances. They wrap insults in glitter and pass them off as jokes. And for the longest time, I played along. I convinced myself it was love with spice. That I needed to toughen up. That I was lucky someone like her even picked someone like me. But now? Now I was hearing echoes I hadn't allowed myself to hear before. Apparently, she lost it after reading the photo note. Screamed at her bridesmaids. Accused her mother of not defending her. Told the photographer to delete all the rehearsal shots. Canceled her own bridal shower the next day, claiming no one deserved her time. People talk. And they talked quickly. A video from the rehearsal dinner started making rounds, posted by one of her not-so-close friends, apparently unaware of the drama. The clip wasn't long, but it captured everything. Her standing up, glass in hand, eyes bright with arrogance, saying, "To Klein, the love of my life. Just kidding. Relax, Colby." And then the camera panned, unintentionally, right to me, sitting stiff in my chair, blinking slow, as if trying to hold my face in place. That video got reshared. Someone posted it anonymously on a wedding fails forum. It got traction. The comments were brutal. And to my complete horror, people were recognizing us. My cousin sent me a screenshot. "Dude, you're on the homepage." The internet, that wild, faceless thing, was doing what it always does. It judged, mocked, dissected. But for once, I wasn't the one being laughed at. She was. And for someone like Lorene, someone whose whole identity was built around being adored, admired, praised, that kind of backlash, it burned. I got a new message from her that evening. A voice note again. She sounded tired. Fragile. I almost didn't play it, but something in me needed to hear what she would say after everything. "Colby, I didn't know it would go this far. I swear I didn't think. I just thought we were having fun. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought you knew it was a joke. That we were solid enough to laugh through stuff like that. But I get it. I get why you left. I do. I really do. I miss you." I sat in a motel chair, staring at the tiny fridge buzzing in the corner, and for the first time in days, I cried. Not because I missed her, but because I finally understood that she never really saw me. I was the mirror she used to admire herself, and the moment I stopped reflecting her best angle, she cracked it. But the break was mutual now, and irreversible. I didn't plan on going back. Not to the city, not to the apartment, not to the neighborhood where everything reminded me of her, where every coffee shop felt like a photograph we forgot to take. But reality has a way of pulling you back whether you're ready or not. My landlord called on a Thursday afternoon to tell me that Lorene had come by the apartment twice already and asked to get her things. Except she didn't take much, just some shoes, a scarf, and the blender we never unpacked. She's not doing well, the landlord said awkwardly. She cried in the hallway. Do you want me to say you're not coming back? And for some reason, I said no. I booked a ticket the next day. Took the long way home. 5 hours on a train that stopped in towns I'd never heard of. The whole ride I kept picturing her standing in our kitchen, barefoot, pretending to be calm, but secretly unraveling. I expected the apartment to be silent. Maybe dimly lit. Possibly untouched since she last left. But when I opened the door, she was sitting there. In my hoodie. On my side of the couch. Eating the exact chips I used to hide behind the spice rack, because she always said they were too boring. She didn't flinch when I walked in. She just looked up slowly and whispered, "You came back." I stood there, key still in the lock, unsure whether to speak or turn around. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. "You weren't answering anything, and everyone's turned on me. Even my bridesmaids are ghosting me. People I've known since college are acting like I kicked a puppy on live television." I didn't say a word. She wiped her face. Her makeup was halfway gone. Just the smeared ghost of eyeliner and a cracked shade of peach on her lips. "I deserved it," she added. "I know I did. But I didn't think you'd just disappear." I finally shut the door. Walked slowly into the apartment. Dropped my bag by the fridge like always. And then I sat in the chair across from her. Not next to her. Not close enough to offer comfort. Just across. We sat in silence for what felt like a full 5 minutes. Her breathing was shallow. Mine was uneven. The sound of traffic below filled the room in a way our voices never could. Then I said it. "You toasted another man as the love of your life in front of my family and laughed at me for not clapping." She opened her mouth like she wanted to defend herself, but then shut it again. "Do you know how long I stared at that photo after? The one from the dinner? I zoomed in on your face. You looked so proud of what you did. Like it was a performance. Like I was just background noise to your punchline." Tears welled up in her eyes. But I didn't stop. And the worst part? I believed you when you said you loved me. I spent years thinking maybe I was too sensitive, too soft, too weak to handle a woman like you. But now I get it. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a mirror that only showed you at your best. Her hands trembled in her lap. The bag of chips slipped to the floor. Then she said something I didn't expect. I didn't mean it to be real. I thought if I could make everyone laugh, it would prove something. That I was still, I don't know, worth looking at, worth remembering. That stopped me cold. Because behind all the arrogance, all the bravado, all the cruel humor, there was this wounded part of her I never quite saw. Or maybe I did, and just kept pretending it wasn't there. She was terrified of being forgotten. And I had made peace with disappearing. But that didn't mean I was coming back. "You didn't lose me because of the toast," I said. "You lost me because you didn't care that I was hurting, not until it was too late." She nodded slowly. No excuses. No more games. I stood up, grabbed a change of clothes, and headed toward the bathroom. As I passed her, she whispered so softly I almost missed it. "If I hadn't joked that way, would we still be getting married tomorrow?" I paused, my hand on the frame. "No," I said, because that joke wasn't the beginning. It was just the moment I finally opened my eyes. I didn't sleep that night, even though I stayed in the apartment. She went to bed hours before me, locking herself in the bedroom we were supposed to share as husband and wife by now. I laid on the couch, wide awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the ticking of the wall clock we bought during our first trip to Asheville. Every tick felt like another second I'd given to something that wasn't real. And yet, I couldn't make myself leave. The apartment felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by potential, by who we almost became. At around 3 a.m., I finally got up. Not to sleep, just to move. My legs itched from hours of stillness, and my head buzzed with all the things I hadn't said. I walked into the hallway closet, the one we rarely used except to dump off-season clothes and things that didn't have a home. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Maybe nothing. Maybe some sign that she'd ever once meant to build a future with me. Instead, I found the folder. A black faux leather portfolio wedged between a stack of boxes and a broken fan. I recognized it instantly. It was the same folder she used during her freelance client meetings, the one she always said held contracts and chaos. I flipped it open. The first few pages were what I expected. Invoices, branding sketches, some planning notes scribbled in her handwriting. But halfway through, things changed. There were printed emails, screenshots of messages, A note with my name written across the top in red pen. And below that, bullet points. Literal bullet points. Like a script. Play up how much Colby cried during proposal. Mention that he didn't even plan dinner after. Tell them he wears earplugs to sleep. Who does that? Add a joke about his grocery lists, LOL. Transition to Jason Toast. End with love of my life, gag should land well if wine's flowing. I froze. Jason, her ex. This wasn't some spontaneous joke. It was rehearsed, outlined, practiced like a bit in a stand-up routine. She had written me into a monologue. Suddenly everything snapped into focus. The way she delivered that line, the timing, the exaggerated pause before the just kidding, the way she milked the laughter, drank it in like she'd earned it. She didn't accidentally go too far. She had planned to humiliate me. For attention. For validation. For applause. And I realized then. I hadn't been her partner in this relationship. I'd been her prop. The rage didn't come right away. Instead, I felt cold, like a switch had flipped and every warm memory had been vacuumed from my brain in a single breath. I sat down on the floor, folders still open in my lap, hands shaking as if my body understood before my mind could catch up. When the bedroom door creaked open behind me, I didn't even turn. She stood there in an oversized t-shirt, rubbing her eyes. Colby, what are you doing? I held up the folder without looking at her. Is this what I was to you? A routine? A joke you rehearsed in front of a mirror until the timing felt just right? She didn't say anything. Just stood there, lips parted, frozen. I turned to face her, the anger finally catching up to the sadness. You made a script to publicly shame me, Lorraine. And then when I left, you told people I overreacted. That I ghosted you. That I was fragile. It wasn't like that, she said quickly. Those were just notes. I was trying to be funny. No, I cut in. You were trying to be seen. You used me as the setup to your punchline because deep down, you think vulnerability is weakness and cruelty is charm. And I let you. I let you for years. But this folder is everything I needed to finally believe my gut. She stepped forward. I didn't go through with the whole thing, okay? I stopped after the toast. I realized it wasn't landing. Do you want a medal? I snapped. You called your ex the love of your life in front of everyone I love, and you're telling me it could have been worse? She went pale. I stood up and held the folder out to her. You can keep your script. I'm done being your rehearsal. And I walked out. No suitcase. No shoes. No destination in mind. Just freedom. Bitter, cold, hollow freedom, but real. I didn't go far that night. Just wandered. The kind of walking that isn't about going anywhere, but about getting away from everything. I moved through streets I knew by heart, except now they felt alien, like the city had somehow reshaped itself just to mirror the fracture inside me. It was strange how quiet everything seemed now that the voice in my head, the one constantly explaining her behavior, excusing it, softening it, had finally gone silent. I checked into a cheap motel 2 train stops away. Peeling wallpaper. A humming mini-fridge. A plastic-wrapped cup next to the sink that claimed to be sanitized for your protection. I sat on the edge of the bed with no plan. Just the folder in my bag, still open to the page where she literally wrote out how to ridicule me in front of my family and friends. The next morning, I started getting the calls. Not from her. From people I didn't expect. Her former bridesmaid, Madison. Her coworker, Kel. Even her own cousin, Darren, who once told me I was too plain for someone like Lorraine. Each call followed the same pattern, awkward greeting, small talk, and then a cautious, almost embarrassed confession. Apparently, the folder wasn't the only thing she had scripted. Turns out Lorraine had been doing bits for months. Private jokes at my expense. Sharing stories about me during her brunches, her office calls, even on Instagram reels I never saw because she'd hidden them from me. Clips with titles like, Things My Fiancé Does That Make Me Question My Choices, or Colby's Red Flags. A thread. One clip, and this is real. Madison sent me the screen recording showed Lorraine mimicking my voice, pretending to cry about a sad movie we watched together. She wiped fake tears from her eyes while saying in a cartoonish tone, but like, why would the dog have to die? The caption read, When you're marrying a human marshmallow skull. Thousands of views. Hundreds of laughing comments. People I didn't know dissecting me. My voice. My face. My feelings. I sat there, watching the video play over and over on loop, stunned. She had turned our relationship into a performance, and the audience had been cheering the whole time. By the end of that day, I had collected 6 different videos. None of them longer than 30 seconds, but each one chipped away at this lie I had been clinging to, the lie that she made a mistake, that it was one cruel toast, one poorly timed joke, one lapse in judgment. It wasn't. It was a pattern, a structure, a cruel little empire built on my silence. And now it was cracking, because someone leaked the folder. I didn't know who. Maybe Madison. Maybe someone else who had access to it after I left it behind in our apartment. But screenshots of the script, her bullet points, her joke plan, the line about adding tears to make him look weak, started circulating online. And suddenly, the story wasn't the groom ghosted the bride. It was, bride scripts roast of sensitive fiancé before wedding, gets abandoned at altar. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. People made videos about it, stitching her clips, reading her bullet points aloud with shocked expressions. Some were angry, some were just stunned. One guy, in a monotone voice, read her list over lo-fi jazz and ended it with, "Girl therapy, please." Her Instagram, once a curated temple of filters and flexes, turned into a war zone. Every photo flooded with comments. Every post dissected. Her followers dropped overnight. Brands she'd partnered with began removing her tags. But she didn't reach out to me. Not once. And that hurt more than I expected. She vanished, not publicly, but privately. No apology. No admission. No attempt to repair. Maybe she thought silence would make it go away. That the internet would find a new chew toy. But what she didn't realize is that people weren't outraged because she was mean. They were horrified because she built an audience on someone else's humiliation and called it love. And as I sat in that motel room, watching her digital world implode, I felt nothing close to victory. I just felt free. And for the first time in months, I finally slept through the night. I thought it was over. That the internet's fury would burn itself out. That she'd stay quiet. That I could keep my distance and finally move forward without looking back. But Laureen doesn't vanish. Not really. Her silence was never about shame. It was strategy. And like every stage of our relationship, she had one final curtain call planned. It happened 5 days after the videos went viral. I was packing my things to stay with my cousin in Albany for a while. I didn't want to be around when the wedding venue refunded part of our payment and sent the check. I didn't want to open the mailbox and see her name anymore. I didn't want to smell the lotion she always used still lingering on the bathroom towels. That's when the email came in. No subject line, just an attachment, a video file, and a single sentence. If you're going to hate me forever, at least hate me for everything. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing I opened it. But the phrasing, the weird finality of it, tugged at something in my gut. So I clicked. The video opened to her sitting on the edge of our bed, wearing that awful knit cardigan she always said made her feel safe. Her eyes were puffy, her voice hoarse. "Colby, this isn't some plea for you to come back. I know I crossed the line, more than once. I hurt you. I laughed while doing it. And the truth is, it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It's because I never knew how to handle someone who actually loved me back." She exhaled shakily, glanced away from the camera, then back. "But there's something you don't know. Something I never planned to tell you. But now I think, maybe I owe you the truth, even if it makes everything worse." I felt the room constrict. She continued, "Remember that week in August when you went out of town to help your mom move? And I told you I was staying back to prep for the pitch with that startup client? That weekend, Jason came over. My stomach flipped. I didn't sleep with him," she rushed, as if anticipating the explosion, "but I wanted to. We talked for hours. We drank. He kissed me, and I didn't pull away. And I would have let it go further if he hadn't stopped it. He stopped it, Colby. Not me." Silence. I felt like the floor had disappeared under me. I wanted to pause the video, to shut it down, but I couldn't. I justified it by telling myself we weren't married yet, that you wouldn't know, that it was just closure, just curiosity. But it wasn't. It was betrayal, and I hate myself for it. And the worst part is, I used it to feed that stupid joke at the rehearsal. That toast? It wasn't random. I said the love of my life because a part of me was still entertaining the fantasy of what he represented. Not him, exactly, but the chaos, the high, the attention. And I thought if I could pull off one more perfect moment, I'd feel in control again. She bit her lip until it turned white. Her shoulders sagged. "You were never the joke, Colby. You were the only honest thing I had. And I ruined you because I didn't think I deserved you." She ended the recording without saying goodbye. I stared at the blank screen for so long that it burned into my vision. The silence in the room felt heavier now, and the ache that returned wasn't the sharp sting of anger, it was grief. Grief for the version of me that still, somehow, hoped there'd be a way to make sense of her. I didn't reply. Not right away. Not after an hour. Not after a day. I sat with the truth, with the image of her kissing another man while I carried boxes for her mother and drove 8 hours back just to surprise her with takeout and a new throw pillow she'd mentioned wanting. Everything started to feel retroactively hollow. All the compliments. The laughs. The nights we danced in the kitchen to songs only she liked. Was any of it real? Or was I just a well-placed mirror to reflect the version of her she wanted to be? 2 days later, I wrote her back. One sentence. You didn't just hurt me, you erased me. I didn't block her. I didn't follow up. And she didn't reply. And that was it. For a long time, I thought the worst kind of betrayal was physical, that once a line like that is crossed, everything else collapses. But I've learned something different. The deepest betrayal is emotional demolition. When someone builds a life with you just to strip it down, board by board, until all that's left is scaffolding. And you, the fool who believed in the blueprint, are left standing with dust in your mouth. I didn't watch the video again. Once was enough. Lorraine's confession sat in my chest like a stone for days. Not because it shocked me, but because deep down, I think I already knew. There had always been something in the way she treated sincerity like a weakness, like vulnerability was something to laugh at. Still, hearing her say it out loud, that she let him in, that she rehearsed my humiliation, it finally severed the last invisible thread I'd been unknowingly clinging to. But here's the strange part. Once that thread snapped, I didn't collapse. I breathed. Really breathed, deep, full, unfiltered air for the first time in years. It didn't happen all at once. There was no big epiphany. Just small moments. I started walking again. I stopped apologizing to waiters for things that weren't my fault. I bought a new journal. I deleted the video, the emails, the screenshots. Not out of anger, but to make room. Room for something else. Something better. A few weeks later, I moved out of the city. Not far. Just enough to quiet the noise. A small place above a bookstore that smells like cinnamon in the mornings and fresh ink in the afternoons. The landlord is an older woman named Doreen who calls everyone sugar and insists I join her book club. I haven't said yes, but I haven't said no. And then one Saturday, while wandering a local street fair with a cup of mint lemonade in hand, I met someone. Her name's Brenna. She wasn't flashy, didn't perform, didn't try to impress. She was reading a poetry zine by a booth when we accidentally bumped into each other. I apologized instinctively, like I always do, but instead of brushing it off, she smiled and said, "No harm, no foul, but I will take that as an excuse to recommend the banana bread over there." Changed my life. It wasn't love at first sight. It was ease. A conversation that didn't feel like a test. A smile that didn't require translation. A softness I didn't have to earn or defend. We sat by the fountain for nearly 2 hours, talking about everything and nothing. I told her about my failed wedding. She didn't flinch or offer cliches. She just nodded and said, "Sometimes we have to walk all the way through the fire just to realize we're fireproof." Brenda doesn't know yet how much those words meant. Maybe she'll know one day. Or maybe she was just a reminder that life doesn't end in betrayal, it just begins again in a different direction. I don't hate Lorraine. Not anymore. That would mean I'm still giving her energy she doesn't deserve. What we had wasn't all fake, but it was broken. And now, I finally see that it had to break so I could learn how to build something real. With someone real. Last week, I sat by the lake near my new place and wrote vows. Not for a wedding. Not for anyone else. Just for me. I vowed to stop apologizing for being soft. To stop mistaking sarcasm for affection. To never again laugh when I want to cry, or cry when I want to leave. To speak, even if my voice shakes. To love, but never at the cost of my own self-worth. That night, I folded those vows, tucked them into the back of my journal, and slept with the window open. Because finally, there was nothing left to hide from. Just the sound of wind, the scent of possibility, and a version of myself I'd almost forgotten existed, finally stepping into the light.